Everybody, we are here for another drive time dialect. I hope that you guys are tuning in. Everybody knows how I start the show. We do all the rambling, get it out of the way at the very beginning so that we can have some time to build the audience. Jugs, it's good to see you. It's been a very strange weekend for me. Actually, it's been a couple of very strange weekends. The last couple of weekends have been very strange for me. But I haven't done any writing for a couple of weeks, and I need to get back to it. So if you haven't yet, you can head over to my Substack and check out my essays over there. AVA, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Georgie, good to see you. STD. But yeah, it's been a strange couple of weekends for me. I want to give a shout out to the show producers, Tab, who's just been a massive blessing to the channel by way of different gift memberships that has really increased my membership count at different times, as well as really supported the channel financially that way. I'm Matt from Subscribestar. Still working on getting stuff to go out on Rumble. I love StreamYard for at home. I do not like it for mobile, so I'm thinking I might have to do Restream to do mobile, and then I can add all my other platforms in on that as well. But so I'm going to be looking for channel members and show producer over on Rumble here pretty soon. And I want to give a shout out to my Anonymous. She knows who she is. She's been a massive support to the channel as well. All of my channel members mean a massive amount to me, but so do all of the subscribers and the regular watchers and the hate watchers and everything. You guys actually mean a ton to me. And everybody showing up in chat means a ton as well. Cannot thank you guys enough for that. Oh, hey, thanks for putting that Substack link in there. If you guys haven't yet, hit that Substack, go over there and follow me on Substack. You'll see a different side of TC on Substack. Same guy, just a different side. But yeah, I also want to have everybody go follow everybody in chat. You guys share your links, especially AVA and Georgie and STD and Jugs and all that. I want all of you guys to sub to each other's channels if you haven't already. So as most of you are aware, this weekend for the United States it started out rough. We came off of lots of decisions by the Trump administration when it comes to how he was going to handle rioting in places like LA, and then we're dealing with Israel's preemptive unilateral, well, not unilateral, we now have information that Trump admin was in on the bombing decision, are in on planning the bombing operation of Iran. And I told everybody that the stuff that was happening here in the United States was a direct, the focus on the riots and ICE and whatnot was a distraction to keep us off kilter when it comes to the pending war with Iran. And sure enough, Israel decided, it was time to bomb Iran. Native Pride, thanks for being here, Mark Dickerson. Mark Dickerson said a 100, but I don't know what that means. So, yeah, and if you guys like the content, you want to help keep me going, you can always hit Super Chat, by the way, or Super Thank You, or channel memberships. Everything helps. If you hear a whining in my car, that's not me, by the way. If you hear a whining sound, my rear wheel hubs are in rough shape, and I'm waiting on the parts to come so I can get it fixed. It's another one of those life expenses. So. But if you donate to the channel, everything that you do for the channel helps to keep the channel going. It helps me be able to keep internet connected and electricity on and all of that. So then not only did we start seeing U.S. cooperating with Israel in their war with Iran and promises to back them up, then on Saturday news broke here in Minnesota early and then across the United States about an act of political violence that took place. I'm not going to say the individual's name. I don't care to say his name. One, I just don't believe in promoting the names of the individuals. Two, I have yet to see enough to believe that this guy is acting independently. I'm going to bring up a few operational phrases that some of you have not heard of, and those three phrases that I'm going to bring up in particular are COINTELPRO, Operation PATCON, and Operation Gladio. These are all intel deep state operations that are documented and demonstrable and verifiable, and they are all legitimate. And when I say legitimate, I don't mean I believe they're legitimate, but they're legitimate operations. They're not just tinfoil hat operations. So PATCON, COINTELPRO, and Operation Gladio. These operations are all asset-based operations where they turn people from either the left political camp, the right political camp, or a combination thereof into weapons. Some of them meant for violence, some of them meant for spreading division, sowing hatred and whatnot. But it almost always comes down to violence. And everything about this, what took place in Minnesota, the ending of the life of Minnesota State Representative, Speaker of the House, and the life of her husband, tended to kill as many people as possible. All of this, the way this is all played out, it all reeks of an operation. Now, that does not mean things did not happen. I want people to understand, when you hear people throw out things like false flag or this is an op, that is not to say that people's lives were not taken. That is not to say that people's friends and family members were not injured or harmed in any way. It just means it's not just a random act, in this case, of political violence. It's being done for a reason. And we're seeing this play out in Minnesota, and this is all introductory. We're going to get to the meat of the subject here very quickly. We're seeing this done in the Mockingbird media, Operation Mockingbird, another operation. Operation Mockingbird, the Mockingbird media did in fact play two sides of the political spectrum with competing narratives at the same time. Folks, first out of the gate was the focus that both of the individuals who were elected politicians in the state of Minnesota, the first thing that came out was that they were hardcore leftist Democrats. That was immediately put out by the media, that these were, people that were very loyal to the Democrat Party, so that the first narrative that was built after the announcement was that whoever the shooter is, whoever the actor is in this situation, he has to be a hardcore right-wing Trump-supporting mega type. Now, then they immediately, upon release of the name of the individual, they released the fact that this guy was appointed to nonpartisan commissions by Governor Tim Walz, which then sparked everybody on the right, the megabots, all came out and started attacking Tim Walz for this guy, blaming Tim Walz for this guy, saying that this is an act of leftist political violence. So this is what's being played in Minnesota. You guys might be hearing some of it across the U.S., but this is what's being played in the media in both sides of the Overton window. And if you guys don't know what the Overton window is, holler at me in the chat. Maybe we can either talk about it yet today or in another stream. But both sides of the Overton window, the left and the right side of the Overton window, are now doing exactly what I believe was the intent of this situation, which was to cause further division and keep the left and the right at each other's proverbial philosophical political throats. They want everybody to be off their game. This is meant to sow discord. It's meant to sow division. It's meant to keep everybody looking at each other, to see one another as an enemy instead of trying, how do I want to say this? Instead of trying to come together over some things that we can agree on. They really need people off kilter. And one of the reasons that I believe this is happening is Minnesota is definitely a far left state. But Minnesota also has had its own share, obviously, the Summer of Love, 2020, George Floyd. We've had our own share of riots. We had attacks on ICE agents in the last 2 weeks here that were not doing immigration enforcement. They were literally investigating money laundering and child trafficking, not international, but national interstate child trafficking and whatnot. And so they want the division there, but they're using the division that this is causing. They're using this event to take our eyes off of something. And I would say the biggest thing that they're using it to take our eyes off of are two things. One, no one's paying attention to the decision, really. They're not getting into the philosophical discussion about whether or not we should be look here, not here, Georgie. Exactly. What if it's an inside job like the intersection? I'm just guessing. Oh, I definitely believe this is all inside work. But they're wanting the general population, because the general population by and large has turned against the war machine. They have turned against defending Israel. They've turned against going after Iran. They've turned against Trump's continuation of support to the Ukraine against Russia. We've had it. And so this is a good distraction because it's of political interest nationwide across the entire United States because of the political violence. This is definitely an act of political violence. The targets were picked because of politics. Not saying that the guilty party, if he's really the guilty party, isn't a leftist. I'm not saying he isn't a right-winger. He could be a left-winger, he could be a right-winger. Doesn't matter. But this was definitely an act of political violence because the targets were political. And that serves to get people's attention away from what is going on, which is the Trump administration vowing to aid and support Israel in their war, their preemptive war against Iran. Another aspect of this is also the reality that Trump has now backed off of his promise to just keep deporting people. And I know a lot of you are politically savvy and news savvy and have probably heard this, but Trump is now, given direct orders to no longer deport, no longer investigate, no longer look at restaurants and the service industry and farms and labor and whatnot for illegals, because he's been told, you're screwing up these businesses. They are losing money because they can't go to work because you're stealing the labor force from them. So Trump has now ordered ICE to stop deporting people who are working in restaurants and hotels and the service industry and the farms. And a lot of people are losing faith in his promises to deport. I'm not talking about whether or not I believe it's legitimate or illegitimate. That's just what's happened during all of this time. So that's been able to slip under the radar. Now, something else happened in relation to this political violence here in the murders here in Minnesota and the attempted murders in Minnesota. Trump announced that he was ordering Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to get into investigating and prosecuting to the fullest extent of the law the individual that's responsible, or individuals that are responsible for the political violence here in Minnesota this weekend. Now, the first thing that I said, and I stand by this, is that this is not the jurisdiction of the federal government. Whether you like Trump or not, he's got no business insinuating the federal government into this investigation. This is an act of murder in the state of Minnesota. Murder is illegal in Minnesota. Therefore, the county that this took place in should be responsible for prosecuting the murder. And ultimately, the state of Minnesota can step in and also prosecute because the crime that was committed took place over multiple jurisdictions. So, this is a Minnesota-based crime. The federal government should have nothing to do with it, unless there's a demonstration that federal laws were broken, legitimate federal laws were broken. Like he fled the state, which he did not. He was arrested here in Minnesota. That he somehow disrupted interstate commerce with what he did, and then that was his goal. So it's not legitimate for the federal government to get involved. And now I had a lot of people arguing with me, Trump supporters, and this is my pushback for people. I get it. A lot of people are binary. You're either Republican or Democrat. You voted for Trump or you voted for Biden and Harris. Or Harris and Walz, excuse me. So a lot of Trump voters were very angry at prosecutions that were taking place as it relates to January 6th and how the federal government insinuated itself into the lives of people all over the country. And they're, complaining about how much power Biden had. It was disgusting how much power Biden was wielding. And I agree. Biden ordering businesses in states that operated solely within sovereign states to fire employees if they refused the jab. Biden didn't have the authority to do that. But Trump directing Attorney General Bondi to step in and investigate and then prosecute to the fullest extent of the law a man who's guilty of committing murder, no matter what the motivation, to me is beyond the pale. And so people are arguing, well, federal law says that if you murder somebody in office. No, every single federal law that addresses someone who holds a political office addresses holding that office at the federal level. What was the reason he gave to step in? Well, honestly, every reason Trump has to step into any situation is to insinuate himself into it so that he can grab clout. Now, other people are arguing arguing that, oh, this is a matter of national security. It's not a matter of national security. Melissa Hortman, God rest her soul, and that, and Senator Hoffman and his wife do not hold federal security clearances. I have friends that are active duty military that are enlisted that have higher military clearance than the victims of the attack this weekend. Hi, Pam. Good to see you. Excellent STD. I love to see more people get out of being registered as Republicans or Democrats. I'd encourage more and more people to look at registering in their local Libertarian Party, not the National Libertarian Party. I don't have a problem with it if you do, but I believe in local acting. But at least be independent. Sorry guys, been a little gay. I had to got myself down to 180 pounds. I haven't been this light in a long time. But everybody, all of Trump's rabid supporters, and stop this. And of course they're saying it's because Minnesota's so corrupt. And I'm like, well, you don't fix corruption by violating the Constitution. Well, lo and behold, the federal government announced today that they're charging the individual, and I'm not making this up, they are charging the individual from Minnesota who murdered people in the state of Minnesota who are Minnesotan residents with federal murder charges. They didn't even, and it's not just federal murder charges, it's federal murder and attempted murder charges for having used a firearm in the commission of the crime. Now, folks, I want you guys to think about this. I don't care if you like Donald Trump or not. I don't care if you like his administration or not. I want you to think about this from without the rigid binary thought process of it's either Democrats or... I'm not blaming you, Georgie. I'm there. Trump supporters and Trump all very different things. You will criticize Donald Trump. I know that. You will criticize decisions that he made. Sorry about that. I literally had a Trump bot argue with me this weekend saying, and I literally, they told me, I don't care if it violates the Constitution. I want Donald Trump to take over this investigation. I've had it up to here with you people in the Constitution. I know I started over. This Trump bot literally said they don't care about the Constitution. They just want Donald Trump to take over the investigation into murders in Minnesota. And sure enough, they haven't charged the individual at the federal level for the same crime that he's being charged with at the state level in Minnesota. Now, the question is why? Why waste taxpayer dollars? Why waste the wage slave tax cattle money to charge him both federally and at the state level for the same crime? And why use a federal law that shouldn't even exist? Why do we have a federal law that gives the federal government the ability to step in and charge somebody with murder at the federal level just because a firearm was used? Why? Why does that even exist? And here's why it exists. It exists to give the federal government cause to go after gun owners. That's all it does. That's all it does. But I also want you guys to think about something. What's the reason behind this law? Not only is it there to give the federal government cause to go after guns, It gives the federal government the ability to step in and decide to charge anybody, right? But why are they not prosecuting then every murder in every state, in every county, in every municipality that takes place with a firearm? This is an example of special privileges, and I know that these poor people are dead. Do not misunderstand me. My heart breaks. My heart breaks for these people and for their families. Ideologically, I have nothing in common with the victims of this crime. Nothing in common with them. There might be some off-kilter ones there somewhere. I do know that the Senator Hoffman is very strong on the Second Amendment. I have a good friend who is a senator in Minnesota who also knows this guy. He's a very strong friend, he's a very strong friend of the Second Amendment. But why are we choosing to charge this crime at the federal level just because, and we all know what it is, it's just because they're politicians? They're all in on it. They're like, we can't have people in our political or in our social class, I almost said our social, let's just say what it is. It's a social caste. It's a caste system. The United States is a caste system, just like India is. We can't have people in our social caste, in this caste system in the United States. We can't have these people being targeted. We've got to step in and stop this. We can't allow this to go on. The federal government should have nothing to do with this. Even if they wanted to assert supremacy based on domestic terrorism, why go to the trouble of charging him at all when you know the state's going to charge him? And some people are like, well, the state doesn't have, capital punishment. We don't have the death penalty in Minnesota. Who cares? Who cares if we don't have the death penalty? Well, now if he's charged at the federal level and he's found guilty, then he can get the death penalty. Look, folks, I don't believe for a minute this guy's going to make it to trial. I'm pretty sure he's going to Epstein himself. And I say that because there's so much that's just hinky about this entire story. This guy is all over the political, ideological map. And the one that they're beating on the most is the one that I mentioned already, which is he was appointed by Governor Tim Walz to a couple of nonpartisan commissions, and they all point to these letters of appointment. I have full faith and trust in your ability to do this job. Look, it's a form appointment letter. And this guy's appointments go back several administrations. It's not just Governor Walz. It was Governor Dayton and Governor Pawlenty, who was a Republican. It goes back that far. So for people to just jump on this and want this to be just this cut and dried thing. The guy's wife was stopped yesterday in her car. In her car, she had $50,000. $50,000 in cash. She had passports, she had weapons, and she had her kids. They stopped her and they let her go. Now, I'm not saying she deserved to be arrested, but you tell me, if this was you and one of you had a spouse and you went off and did something like this, would your spouse get stopped with $50,000 cash, passports, and firearm, and the kids, and not be held for questioning? Let's just be really frank. Would you be allowed, as the spouse of the shooter, Would you be allowed to go without questioning? They stopped her, talked to her, and she gave them some answers. Then she allowed them to search her phone. And some of what they found on her phone is what they're using to justify his federal charges, which is he planned this. So they're charging him federally with stalking, attempted murder with a firearm, and murder with a firearm. And she cooperated, but then they let her go. The other thing is that she had $50,000 in cash. Now, what did she tell him about where she got it? She said she just went to the bank on Saturday morning after she got this text from him in a family group chat that said, I'm not going to tell you guys everything because I don't want to incriminate you, but Daddy went to war last night. What's Mommy do? Mommy rushes to the bank right away and withdraws $50,000. Now, if you don't know anything about banking in the United States, know this. Your bank is not going to give you $50,000 on a Saturday because you walk in and say, hey, I need to withdraw my $50,000. The way the laws are written right now when it comes to banking, if you show up at your bank and want to withdraw any large amount of money, they're going to first inform government agents. That's what they do. Large transactions like that immediately get reported to government agents. Then for the bank, your bank does not have $50,000 to give you if you have a bank account with $50,000 in it. They have to schedule that. Now imagine you've got numerous people who have $50,000 in the bank. Now, we all know that allegedly your bank is supposed to have that amount of money in the bank. If you have $50,000 in an account, they're supposed to have that money to give to you at all times, but they don't. Your money is not sitting in the bank. Your money is being electronically stored. And if you want to make a large cash withdrawal like that, you've got to schedule that. And it does two things. It gives them time to get an armored car there with your $50,000, and it gives them time to inform government officials about your large withdrawal. That's what it's for. And if you don't believe me that they inform government officials for large cash withdrawals, just go to YouTube and watch videos on the number of people who have been stopped by law enforcement upon making a large cash withdrawal because the bank has called government officials and said, we have so-and-so here making a large cash withdrawal. Then law enforcement comes up with a pretext for a stop and then questions them about, you just made a large cash withdrawal from your bank. We'd like to ask you what's going on. Why are you doing that? Folks, this is the reality. This woman gets notified that Daddy went to war last night, and her first response is to go and withdraw $50,000 in cash, pack the kids into the car, and take off. Now, once again, I'm not saying she's guilty. She's entitled to withdraw her cash from the bank. She's entitled to leave and go wherever she wants. But you and I would not be allowed to leave after that. We would get told, very best case scenario, you need to go back home and stay there. We will contact you when we want you to come in for further questioning. Nope, she just was let go. This guy has traveled out of the country on numerous occasions. Numerous occasions. He's an advocate for increasing immigration from West African countries. So while I believe there might be some pretext for why the feds are getting involved, they should not be operating in a clandestine way, and I'll still go back to the fact that if they're going to charge him for a federal crime, let it be an exclusive federal crime. do not double charge him for murder and attempted murder when we already have him being charged in Minnesota for murder and attempted murder. And I would dare you guys to start going and looking at the photos and looking at the videos and tell me if what you see in the photos and the videos that we have seen released of him so far, you tell me if the guy in the photo of the arrest looks like he has the same body shape, the same height, and the ability to pull off what is allegedly what happened in this case. This is a setup, folks. This is a setup. This whole situation reeks. Not just because people died. I 100% believe that people died. But this guy is, the guy in the photos and the videos is not the same guy as that I saw arrested. I just do not believe it. You know what? Color me jaded. Color me discontented with government at all her levels. At all levels of the state. Color me discontented. That's fine. Call me a conspiracy theorist. Call me a whack job. I've been called worse by better people. But what I am going to tell you is that we're not being told everything. And I think the feds want to get their hands on him because they want to make him disappear. They need to make him disappear. He wasn't supposed to survive this. And here's how I know that he wasn't supposed to survive this. I put a link on my Facebook page to a video put out by Benny Johnson. And Benny and we don't know each other, but when I say Benny and I would have some variances on some things. I'm far more, obviously libertarian than Benny. Benny is very much a traditional conservative Republican type. Yeah, I think he does probably know too much. Yes, it's definitely a psyop, Georgie. False. No, not false flag in the way most people look at it, Pam. But in the video, and I noticed this right away too, and Benny pointed it out, and I was really glad to hear somebody with his clout say it. I have some ideas about the cooking stuff, by the way, Georgie. Here's what I want to say about why I don't believe this individual was meant to survive. I do not believe that he was meant to survive because at the Hortman home, the home of Melissa Hortman, the Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. Law enforcement reported that they showed up on scene. They were met at the door by the shooter. They exchanged gunfire with the shooter at basically, close combat range. Close combat range. Images of the door show that numerous rounds of ammunition went into and through that door. The shooter went through the door, went out the back of the house, and disappeared. Law enforcement made entry into the home, and they found the husband of Representative Speaker of the House Hortman dead in the entryway. Say what you want. Think what you want. The shooter was meant to die. The violent one was meant to die in that shootout. But also, what are the odds that one of those rounds at least one of the dozens of rounds that went through that front door didn't make contact with the husband. Is there any chance at all that the shooter was supposed to die? And is there any chance at all that in all of this flub up, law enforcement killed the husband? They said it in their report. They made a shallow entry and pulled the husband out and determined he was dead. And when law enforcement in a attack situation talks about a shallow entry, they mean they barely go in. They were able to go barely into the home before clearing it and pull the husband out, where they found he was deceased. Hi, Lady Jen. Thanks for being here. I'm going to wrap this up here in just a couple of minutes. That's a massive, massive red flag. A massive red flag. And now they've announced that they're not going to be releasing the manifesto because there's no pertinent information. Come on. Feds scramble to jump through a loophole to be able to get some form of jurisdictional control of this. Because they got to make this guy disappear. Because he wasn't supposed to live through this. I'm speculating. I'm throwing it out there for people to weigh on their own. I don't know it for a fact. But what's the reality here? I don't know. I don't know. But I'm telling you that this reeks. And I'm telling you, do not be distracted. Your country, despite all the promises from Donald Trump, is going to war with Iran. Exactly, Georgie. Just like that shooter. Oh, just like that shooter whose apartment was scrubbed clean, whose house was scrubbed clean. This guy's massive, like scrubbed clean. But do not be distracted. This is all a distraction. And I'm sitting here talking about it, but I'm talking about it so one, we aren't distracted, and two, we don't fall for the narrative that they put out. This is an op. COINTELPRO, PatCon, Gladio, something like that. A solid distraction to keep us from focusing on the fact that Trump has abandoned his promise when it comes to immigration, and to keep us from paying attention to what's happening in the war with Israel and Iran, which is we're committing to put American service members' lives at risk. Even though he promised there was going to be no more if he was president. People shouldn't have had to die for this. Shouldn't have had to die. Exactly. What's the real reason for the Marines being in LA? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Folks, I really appreciate, hey, Bob. Yeah, Feeding Our Future, another, distraction from that. Hey, everybody, say hi to Bob. Bob is a personal friend. He's one of my heroes, honestly. Him and his wife and his son. There's too much going on here for this to not be what it looks like, which is a distraction. So I am going to let you guys come out and say hi to the Freedom Flock real quick before I wrap this up. So let's Let's go say hi to them. They love the camera. Hello, girls. Hello, girls. Let's go say hi to all of them by name. Yep, let's say hi. Paw. Let's Hildy and Hildegard. There's Buffy. There's Fayette, and there's Faye. There's Polly, Paula, and Pauline. Betsy. Betsy's my sweetheart. Hi, yeah, you know your name, don't you, Betsy? And there's Bessie. That's Bessie, Betsy, and that's Buffy. We call Buffy because she's kind of chunky. She's kind of chunky. Yeah. I called you chunky. Yeah, they're loving the summer. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. I might start scheduling a drive time dialectic on a regular basis, maybe a couple of times a week. Tell me if you guys enjoy them. And then I think the next one I'm going to do, I might do an Ask Me Anything. One of the things that I want to talk about the next time I do one is I want to talk about the doctrine of non-commandeering and why it plays such a vital role in law enforcement and government cooperation, and what the federal government can require of the states when it comes to enforcing federal laws. It's actually a really important conversation for people to have and to understand. Oh, STD, stop apologizing. You've had your hands full with things, so I'm glad to see you're back. I love having you here. Pam, we'll talk. I've got to make a setup for the quail. So, but you guys have a great night. Remember, fight for your freedom, it is yours. Fight for your liberty, it belongs to you. And until next time, thanks for being here. And Sic Semper Tyrannis.